And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play your first $5 projections. And we're also presented by CLNS Media. Make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube for all that great content. We got a live stream this Friday night reacting to the NHL draft. Carl Corzini is returning. Maybe the whiteboard will make an appearance. The whiteboard will be here. Hopefully, there will, maybe we'll break down James Haggs' neutrals, his offensive zone entries, maybe how he could be better in the neutral zone, things like that. And then obviously make sure to go subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Bruins Beat, Poke the Bear, Pucks with Haggs on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever. And make sure to go also check out CLNS's other great content, Celtics All Access, Garden Report. They were still doing Garden Report during the NBA Finals, which, that's dedication. And Patriots, a lot of Patriots Press Pass. Go subscribe to them on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So, Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. I'm feeling refreshed. I am back from Hilton Head. I'm back from Savannah. We were saying before we recorded, you told me before I went, you're like, you are going to eat a lot. You are going to come home feeling fat. And Lord knows that is exactly what happened. I will say it is really hot down there. So good amount of walking. But the Southern food, that Southern comfort food, man, it hits. It tastes good. And the ice cream, it's rich. I mean, so is every ice cream, but it was just good. I had a fun time. I enjoyed it.
Leopold's ice cream.
That's right. We waited in a very long line for Leopold's at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. It was so hot, but it was also so worth it. I mean, it was just fantastic ice cream. So I recommend the trip.
It is the issue whenever you go, especially somewhere down south known for its cooking, especially in the summertime, right? Because I feel like that's usually when at least you and I are most free. It's all right, well, we're free from June through middle of August. So now is the ideal time to go to Charleston or New Orleans or something like that. And I remember I went to New Orleans in the middle of July, and all the hotels, like wicked nice hotels, were going for $120 a night. I'm like, what a great deal. I wonder why. And then you walk out and it's literally 110 degrees, humidity's awful. But at the time you're like, all right, well, I can eat this entire skillet of cinnamon rolls and with a fried chicken wing on top and be like, oh, I'm going to walk this off. It's not true. It's like the president being you got a battery on your body and you can only you can't work out because you're going to use up all your battery power. It's a flawed thinking you can eat a whole thing of cinnamon rolls, walk in humidity for 10 minutes and you're good to go. You're ready for round two. It's not how it happens.
No, the best thing though about areas like that is every Uber is the lowest temperature possible, and every store has AC. Every restaurant, every bar. We went into this one dueling piano bar, and it's the line's huge, and you look inside, and I'm like, they definitely don't have AC. It's gonna be 100,000 degrees in there, and they did. And it was actually really comfortable. So fun trip, fun times. But I will say, Connor, it allowed me to clear my head while I was there, and I was able to think things maybe differently. Took some time away from hockey, Bruins, draft, all that stuff. And this thought kept coming to me as I was refreshing myself at the beach. And it's sort of been percolating for months, and it really came to the forefront over the last couple days. We've talked about this. The Bruins core, Pastrnak, McAvoy, Swayman, are either in or entering their primes. They're all at least at the very beginning of what we hope their primes will be. So are Elias Lindholm. So is Hampus Lindholm. Those guys are signed long-term. They're also not going anywhere. Not all those players, no moves. You can't really get rid of those guys. Except for Swayman right now. I think you technically could. It would have to be, though, until once next season starts, it kicks in. Yeah. That's when that whole thing kicks in. But anyway, your core is the age that it is, which is contending age for when you'd want to be a contending team. And I see these trade rumors. I think it was one of the Empty Netters guys tweeted out, hearing the Islanders want to get back into the top 10 and they're interested in the Bruins number 7 pick. And that's been a rumor we've heard a lot about over the last, week or so. And I do wonder if they trade that 7th pick for a player who is around the same age as McAvoy, Pastrnak, Swayman, who is maybe a year or two left on their on their current contract, who can step into the top six or step in to be an impact guy on D. I look at the Islanders. Obviously, Noah Dobson's the huge one. I think he's doing a contract. Is it next year? I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
And he's an impact. That's a top four. That's a borderline top pairing. That is a top pairing right shot defenseman. Matt Barzal is a popular name up front that keeps getting thrown around. How funny would that be? And I'm not saying that like I'm for it or against it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did it, because that core that they have wants to win now. And they talk about this sort of retool. And we talked about this with Jason Robertson. Would you do Jason Robertson for number 7? And the more I think about it, it's like I wouldn't be shocked if they did trade that pick for, or if we hear a lot about them potentially looking to trade that number 7 pick for an established NHL player who can help them win games next season.
Yeah, the Bruins are going to trade for Matthew Barzal, and they're going to sign Brock Besser just to be like, look, guys, we made up on 2015. You guys happy now?
We did it. We did it.
I don't know if that would go over all that well. But, no, I mean, I think when you look at the trade rumors and everything surrounding the Bruins, and it's not just the Islanders rumors that have been going on for about a week now, but you've seen it with, as you said, the Jason Robertson discussion. You've seen it with, like, Marty Necas, Elias Pettersson, someone like that who's been rumored to be out there. And the Bruins are, I think, a natural team to link all of those trade candidates to. Because, as you said, the Bruins are in this weird spot where, it feels like, especially after the trade deadline, they mapped out, like, all right, it's going to be a 2-3 year, we hope, retool where we can stay the course, we can accumulate draft picks, we can really build up our next wave of talent. That's all well and good. And, like, I don't think you can, like, begrudge the Bruins for taking that approach of, like, restocking their system. You already have Bruins fans who are thrilled over Will Zellers, right? They haven't probably seen, like, all of 5 seconds of the guy's footage. And, again, he's been really, really good in the USHL. They even followed him out in Minnesota, the Bruins social media team. So they're clearly building up the hype with that guy. And I think Bruins fans has an appetite for this next wave of young talent. But they're in this weird spot where, as you said, you also have to, if you're not hitting on these draft picks, and let's say it's not a 2-3 year retool, but it's 4 to 5 years, then yeah, you're squandering a window right now where you do have guys like Pasternak and McAvoy and Swayman in their prime right now. So it's a tough spot to be in. You can, I think, make a compelling case for both ways, right? Of staying the course, just getting your draft picks, developing, taking the slow and steady approach there, because we've also seen many times where a team kind of rips the Band-Aid off, except so they're kind of going into a few lean years, and then get impatient and then cash in too early, right? We've seen that all these times where, like, you feel like Detroit had a few really promising draft picks, right? They got like Sider, Raymond, some of those players, and then they like showed like they were taking a step forward, and then they like blow all their money on third line type players, guys that don't move the needle, and now they're kind of back in no man's land. I think you saw it a few years ago with Columbus, where they kind of had a lot of young players coming in, then they kind of accelerated a little bit. It feels like now they're on the right track again, right? Where they're slow and steady. We got all these younger players. Let's not mess around with anything. Let's let them marinate, continue to develop, and we're in a good spot. We got to figure out the goaltending situation, but we're not freaking out and trading Fantilli or Sillinger or someone like that for John Gibson, right? That if that happens, then you can clip that. But I feel like they've learned their lesson, right, of taking that approach. But also some of those guys, Marchenko is their best player, and he's what, 25? David Pasternak's 28, going on 29, I think, right now. So I get it that the Bruins, I think, are trying to be aggressive, trying to check off, both boxes, right, of developing internally while also finding ways to help out the team right now. And you can make the case, you go and trade for a Noah Dobson. That's a guy that can be a power play quarterback, a 55-plus point defenseman, 20-plus minutes a night. That maybe offers you more value than when you get in the number 7 pick. Same thing we say with Jason Robertson. Like, he's 25 going on 26, 40 goal scorer, Marty Necas. All these players can help you out right now and for the future. But I think I talked about this with Ty last week on Poke the Bear, where it's almost like I would rather give up future draft capital and do whatever you can to keep this number 7 pick. If, like, Jason Robertson, for example, there was that rumor of, like, Dallas wants something similar to the Mikko Rantanen trade, where it's like 2 future firsts, 2 thirds, and a young player. I'd give up Toronto, Florida's pick. I'd give up another future first, whatever it may be, But if you can do something like that and acquire a player while giving up those future assets that you've also accumulated yourself through the trade deadline and keep that number 7 pick, I would do that because, yeah, you can make the case that, James Higgins or Roger McQueen or Jake O'Brien, Brady Martin, they're not a lock to be an impact player, but they could be. And even if, to what we've said, I feel like for months now, even if Jake O'Brien or Brady Martin or one of these guys is like a second line center, well, I'll take the second line center that gives you 65 points and is on a cheap deal. He's a homegrown guy, right? I think you're still getting a valuable piece there with the number 7 pick, especially when you look at how many centers are right there. So, again, I won't begrudge the Bruins for, I think, trying to do something to help them win now and for the future, but I would try to I'd try to move heaven and earth, I would say, to, not give up that number 7 pick in any deal, even if it means a lot of picks down the road.
That's my big thing that I keep going back to is I want them to make that pick. They should make that 7th pick. You think about, what they went through this past year, how bad they were, how barren the prospect pipeline is. And I do think your best chance at a potential franchise number 1 center is a top 10 draft pick in a draft where, maybe there isn't that McDavid or Celebrini level superstar, but there are a number of centers that you can pick from. We're seeing that in all these rankings, which we'll get into in a bit. And we've talked about for months now of the amount of centers who even at 7 could still be available to them, who could be someday top 6 regulars at center. So that to me is the biggest thing. Is I don't want to give up the 7th pick. I'm also with you on this. I would trade the future firsts if it means getting impactful players that can help you win now. And suddenly, your draft pick this year comes up in 2 to 3 years, makes an impact in 4 to 5, and they're, a young, the sort of the youngest level of the core with guys like McAvoy and Pastrnak and the Lindholms and everything like that. Whereas if you go at the rate that you're going at and you don't make any trades, right? Like this 7th pick this year, whether it's Higgins, O'Brien, whomever, they're not going to be the youngest. You're going to have guys coming for a while, and that might be great and all. And I like that idea, but look at who you currently have. Look at your roster. Like, this is where we talk about all the time. The Bruins are in such a weird spot because I do think they have a roster that, when healthy, should contend at least for the playoffs. And those guys want to. And you don't want to get in a situation where, 2 years from now, Pasternak's like, I want out. I don't want to be like, I'm 30, 31 years old. I want to compete. I want to contend for a Stanley Cup. I saw Brad Marchand having a blast down in South Florida. I want out. Like, you do not want that to happen. And not saying that drafting all these players is going to equate to that, but I do think there's still a little bit of a pressure to contend with the roster that you have. So the more I see these trade rumors of different guys, like, would you do a Noah Dobson for number 7 deal? And Barzal for number 7, like, I'm not completely shooting them down. I want them to make those picks, but I'd much rather, if you're gonna acquire Noah Dobson, and I don't think New York would be interested in this, like, of future firsts, but I'd rather them do it with future firsts than the number 7 pick. And also, what I would say to the Islanders is, like, I don't think there's a guarantee that Higgins is there at 7. We'll get to that in a bit because Bob McKenzie's final rankings came out, and interesting stuff. But they have a roster and they have guys locked up long term that can't be moved unless they want to waive that those no moves. I think there is sort of a little bit of a pressure to contend and not win now, like as in the cup, but be a competitive team.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with that number 7 pick, listen, a lot can also go wrong next year, right? Like, whether it's more injuries, if Swayman continues to struggle, if there's growing pains, all that stuff. But I think we're at least in the same wavelength, Evan, where it feels like, or at least maybe we're just hoping, maybe we're just manifesting that this past year was the bottoming out process where, in a perfect world, like, I'm not saying the Bruins are going to bounce back and, be first or second in the Atlantic next year. No. But, like, they should be better. They could potentially be pushing for a playoff spot. Maybe. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that, barring catastrophe, I don't think the Bruins are going to be, like, tanking for McKenna. I don't think they're going to be in a spot for a top 10 pick. Things can change. Hell, maybe they'll be like Utah, where, like, they come just short of the playoffs, but then they just fall into a number 4 pick. That'd be great. But this number 7 pick, I think, offers you for right now, can't read the future, your best chance of, adding a legitimate top 10 center into your pipeline. Like, those opportunities don't come around that often. I know this draft is not stacked, but if this is your one opportunity to bring in someone, whether that's a guy with a high floor like a Martin, or throwing a dot at the dot board like Roger McQueen, who has a lot of red flags, but could be a really impactful player. Like, and this is your opportunity if you're the Bruins of like, hey, yeah, there's no guarantee, but like, yeah, you guys don't want the 6'5" centerman who was going to be a top 3 pick before he hurt his back and was doing pull-ups and everything during the combine. Like, I feel
Sam Bennett couldn't even do a pull-up. Sam Bennett couldn't even do a pull-up in his combine.
I mean, maybe that's actually a requirement, though, that, if you do pull-ups, you're not that good, even though I would say probably Chara has something to say about that. I think he would do like 50 on the first day of camp.
Every year.
But if this is your one opportunity, if you're the Bruins, to add a center, yeah, I would give up the future first. I would give up, you do run that risk of like, if you would say you included like your 2026 first, there's a lot more risk involved, right? Where it's like, you better be a better team than you were last year. But if that pick ends up being, 14 to 18, as opposed to things bottoming out again and it's a top 5 pick or something like that, you do have to weigh that risk. But I would do whatever I could to keep that 7 pick, because I think this is your one opportunity. You hope it's your one opportunity. I mean, things are going well if it's your only opportunity to add a center with a top 10 pick.
You hope that, I think if you're the Bruins, you hope that you can get another team. Let's say you're in negotiations for Noah Dobson, let's say, or a Marty Necas. You sort of hope that you can get a team to say, man, the Bruins were terrible in 24-25. They don't have a legit number 1 center. They don't, Swayman's question marks with him. I don't think the roster's good. They're rebuilding. I'm going to take a chance and go for that 2026 first round pick that could end up being a lottery pick or higher than number 7. Like, you hope that a team, if you're the Bruins, you hope that a team looks at your 2026 first and says, actually, that's really valuable because, respectfully, you suck. So I think that to me, that's their best negotiation chip. 7's a high pick. Like, we've said it so many times. That is your best chance to get a franchise number 1 center, and at the very least get someone who should be a legitimate part of your roster in a couple years for a long time. So we'll see what they end up doing with that pick, trading it. We'll get into who we think they're going to pick, because this is the last week. The draft is Friday, and then Saturday's rounds 2 through 7. And can you believe it? It's like all this month's buildup finally on Friday. I keep going back to, I'm glad that this draft is actually interesting. Like, the common summary or description of this draft is unpredictable. After picks 1 and probably 2, it could go anywhere. It can go absolutely anywhere. And I think that's what makes this talking about it so fun. Before, though, we get into who the Bruins might pick, our friends over at Prize Picks. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite players from baseball or soccer with esports. And when hockey comes back around, you can do hockey as well, and much, much more. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And Prize Picks, they put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes, and boy, do I like to see that. I'll say this, you're probably watching or listening to this on a Tuesday, and Taco Tuesday is one of my favorite things. Discounted projections from 15 to 25% off. I talk about it all the time. I love Taco Tuesday. They also have Flex Friday, which is phenomenal as well. So you want to get in on the action, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Run your game over at Prize Picks. And again, baseball's really the only show in town right now among the professional sports. So make it more interesting, make it more fun with our friends over at Prize Picks. So in terms of who the Bruins might pick, everyone's putting out their final mock drafts, their final draft rankings, and they're all different. The Athletic has one thing. Elite Prospects has another. This one has that. It's a mix of McQueen and Brady Martin and Jake O'Brien and all these different ones. But Bob McKenzie, who usually big insider, has a lot of friends in high places, did his draft ranking, and I think it's a mix of what he thinks and also what scouts and GMs are talking about. Had James Haggens at number 7. How, just before we dive into this, how insane would it be if the Bruins actually do end up with James Haggens at 7?
You better have that clip ready to go, Evan. I swear to God, if they announce that they got James Haggens and you don't fire that tweet off within like a minute, you gotta, it will do numbers. You got to do it.
Well, I always think about like, and I was thinking about it, like the context of that was, Jeremy Swayman's contract negotiations are going south. Send him to San Jose, get their 2025 first in return. They're still going to suck. They'll be like the first or second pick in the draft, and you draft James Haggens.
Yeah, we were correct if they were. Yeah,
we were correct. They should have been the first overall pick, but nonetheless,
we correctly predicted that the Sharks were going to suck. Bold take, I know. And
crazy.
Also, we predicted that James Haggens goes to the Bruins. We're geniuses here.
Well, I think it's one of those. Remember back in like our school days in math class, and you get the right answer, but you got there the wrong way.
I never got the right answer in math. That's why I'm a writer, Evan.
I was in the same boat where I did. Well, this happened to me quite a bit. When I did get the right answer, the teacher would look at it and she'd go, "Huh? How did you get here?" And I'd show my work, and she'd say, "That's wrong. That doesn't even make sense." But you still got there. I still got to give you credit. So if they pick Haggens, that's what it is. We finagled the way back then, and the real way they got there was they just stunk. And Haggens didn't have the year that maybe we all thought he would have at BC, and suddenly he falls to 7. If they are in a position, we talked about this last week. Whose mock draft was it? I forget whose mock draft we talked about. Was it Bob McKenzie's? It was last week. The mock drafts all blend together.
Was it Craig Button's?
It might have been Craig Button's.
Roger McQueen's had, I think The Athletic had Roger McQueen going to the Bruins on, I think it was Corey Prodman's last one. And then I think Craig Button had, I forget who he had the Bruins taken, but I think he had Haggens at like 8 or 9.
Yes, there was one that Haggens went to the Sabres at 9. The Bruins took McQueen, I think, and Marchand went to the Kraken at 8. I think that was the one we talked about last week. But if there is a situation in which Haggens is on the board at 7, and obviously, like, we joke, I've covered Haggens, so I think, I like the kid, I like the player, I've seen him develop a little bit. So obviously there is that sort of bias towards it, or not bias, but like I know him better than I know other prospects, so it helps. If he's there at 7, that's who you take. Yes. Like if James Haggens is there at 7, sure, he didn't have the season that Will Smith had his freshman year. Sure, he could be a little bit of a perimeter player at times, and there were times I didn't notice him this past season. But the skating, the skill, the hockey sense, the hands, the playmaking, I think it's almost indefensible to pass on a guy like that if he's there at number 7.
Yeah, it all goes down to, and again, I agree. Like, I think Haggens is a legitimate prospect, a guy that has all the potential to be a top 6 centerman, an impactful centerman up at the next level. I get the concerns, and I think we've talked about them, right? To your point, maybe you wanted to see a little bit more from him. He is maybe more of a skilled player, and I think especially when you look at how Brady Martin's jumped up the draft rankings, you see like what Sam Bennett's doing. I think there is probably some teams that now are, I don't know, drinking the Kool-Aid's the right term, but they're like, Haggens is a good. I feel like you have a bunch of the guys, like the guys from Moneyball, they're all sitting in a boardroom like, James Haggens is a good player. Can we win with the guy? And I think that's probably like a legitimate price stance is like Haggens is skilled, but do you win with that type of player? Right?
Who's Fabio?
Yeah, exactly. Sounds like an Oakland A already. But no, I do think that especially at number 7 overall, if you're able to get a guy like Haggens, who was the consensus number 1 going into the year, was still a point per game player in Hockey East, Seth was at the all-time scoring record for a U18 tournament?
A U18, right? Yep. U18 Worlds.
A record previously set by this guy. Do you remember his name? He's like a Russian guy, Nikita Kucherov.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, I've heard of him a couple times.
Again, is he like the perfect player? No. If like the Bruins drafted James Haggens, 98.5, like Felger and Mavs are going to be like, he's soft. BC guy.
Local, got backyard, didn't leave Causeway Street.
How about he draft a guy with some balls? Like we know what it's going to be, but in terms of the value,
I could take down James Haggs in a 1-on-1.
And
please,
again,
Mike.
like I get the narrative, I get the concern, but especially at number 7, where you dropped further than you were expecting to be in the draft. If you're bringing in a guy who has that level of skill, that level of skating ability, where you can create entries, make something happen on nothing, especially on a Bruins team that had to work so hard to generate anything, not even like cash in on chances, generate high danger looks, to bring in a guy like Haggs, who I think has all the ability to be a 50-plus point guy at BC next year, and then could maybe jump in March and help you out right away. At number 7, you take that type of player, especially in today's NHL, where, yeah, maybe everyone's now looking at the physical, Sam Bennett's, all those things. The NHL is not, the league as a whole is not going to go into more physicality and more grit and brawn. Like, it's going to keep on getting faster and more skilled. You know who tried getting bigger and prioritize size? Was the 2024-25 Bruins, and they sucked, and they couldn't catch up with anyone. So if a guy like James Haggs is there, you take him, especially at number 7.
You take him. Now, here's my thing. I don't think he's there. The more I read these rankings, you can read the tea leaves. You see this every year. Guys trend up, guys trend down. Who's the hot new name? Brady Martin clearly is that right now, and he might be gone by 7. I mean, Utah seems to be a popular spot for him at 4, or does Philly take him at 6? To me, I still don't imagine. I still can't see Haggs getting to 7. I just can't fathom it. I don't even see him getting past Nashville at 5. I don't. And again, if he's there at 7, great, take him. But I think when you're talking realistic guys who probably will more than likely be available to the Bruins at 7, I think you're looking at Roger McQueen. I think you're looking at Jake O'Brien. I think maybe Brady Martin. Maybe if he does, it seems like he's trending higher than 7 right now, but there's still a lot of rankings that have him 10th, 12th, 9th, 7th, sort of all over the place. So those 3. Does Porter Martone fall to you at 7? I think those are sort of the 4 names. Victor Eklund, do they sort of reach for him potentially? Does Desnoyers fall to you at 7? But I think the most likely ones.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. Schaefer.
Yeah.
I think the most likely ones are, you're looking at O'Brien, Jake O'Brien, Roger McQueen. I want to say Brady Martin, but I don't know if it's hard to tell with him, but maybe. I still think they go Jake O'Brien. I think that's the guy who's there at 7. I think he fills a lot of the needs. He's not the guy that gets me the most excited. I think the most excited one would be Haggs if he fell to you realistically. Yeah. But I think O'Brien. But the more I read stuff, Connor, the more I could see them taking McQueen. The more I could see them taking Roger McQueen. And I don't like that because I think that's a big swing in a big spot. But the more mock drafts I read, wouldn't shock me if they went the McQueen route.
So I will preface this by saying that my prediction, I feel changes every couple of days. So I think when we did our mock one a week ago, I had Haggs going to the Bruins.
That was great.
I'm tweaking it a little bit now, and I think I've changed it also when I spoke with Ty about it. So again, forgive me, but again, this draft is so all over the place that I feel it does change. My prediction is that at number 7, the Bruins are going to have the option of taking either James Haggs or Roger McQueen, and they're going to take Roger McQueen.
I could see it.
You hear it a lot.
I think Carl. I'm gonna ask Carl to drive over his whiteboard to me just so I can smash it over my leg for when that happens.
I think you're hearing a lot of the Bruins with McQueen. I think they like the player. I think if they are convinced that he's healthy, they look at him as a guy that is a matchup nightmare, a guy that is a probably top 3 pick if he was healthy and played the whole year. Who's going to be an over a point per game guy. If he was healthy, maybe he has the same stat line as Jake O'Brien, right? 98 points, 100 points, 6'5", skilled. And again, I feel like I'm just now representing the Roger McQueen camp, getting the stock jumping up. But I could see the Bruins, especially if, let's say, it is Haggs or McQueen, and I really like James Haggs. And I would pick, between those two, I would pick James Haggs because I think he's just got the the
say it. You're picking James Haggs.
Yes. But I could see the Bruins in that spot. Whether it's the shifting narrative about like who you can win with, or like if this is your number 7 pick and you ideally aren't going to be there, you go for the guy that has legitimate franchise star potential. I would argue that James Haggs is a franchise potential player as well. If it was like McQueen or Brady Martin or someone like that, I could see him opting for the upside, or even, maybe like Denoyer, who I think is a really good player, but like he's maybe more of a really, really good 2C as opposed to McQueen, like has risk, but could be a 1C.
Yeah.
My prediction is, I'm going to say they take McQueen and Haggs is still there. But I know this, harkening back to what you said about O'Brien, I feel like O'Brien is like the one that has the least amount of criticism that you can lob at them, right? Where he's maybe not the most exciting, but has like the high-end potential, was almost a 100-point player this past year, is 6'2", can fill out his frame, is known as being a really smart player, really good playmaker, good potential to be a good two-way centerman. Like, I think he's going to be a couple years away because he's really going to add on some weight and develop a little bit more.
Gotta fill out.
But I feel like that's the safest option, right? Where like maybe like say this in terms of there's not as much criticism you can throw at them. Like Brady Martin, I think is a safe player to take, but it's also like, well, is he just the highest floor type of player? And she'd be using a number 7 pick on that. Jake O'Brien almost had 100 points and could be a really impactful like playmaking 2C, maybe even a 1C. Like he's got that ability in him. So I feel like that is the safest option if you're the Bruins, but I don't know. I feel like he's going to go a little bit higher than the Bruins, at either 5 or 6, and I feel like it's going to be Haggs or McQueen. That's my prediction for right now. Ask me again tomorrow when I change my opinion. But I'm
going to say I'm going to try. I've already changed my opinion a ton on this draft because I think we're getting different information. I had an NHL scout tell me something interesting on McQueen that I thought was like an apt observation. Every team doctor right now, every team's medical staff is being put on the spot with a guy like McQueen. What are his physicals? Is he good enough to go? What do you think of his back? Because I think I read this in your story. His back injury started in 23-24. And he played through it. Which, like, Jesus. So, like...
He had a 70-point season as, like, a 16-year-old.
He did. He has all the makings of, like, a legit first-line center. It's just that back injury is scary. And I think with these, if the Bruins team doctors are like, no, he's good. Like, we think he's fine. Take the chance. The other thing with McQueen...
The Minnesota Wild doctors, they put on Hulk hands. They keep on punching him in the back. And it's like, tell us when it hurts.
That's right. They break him in half. They're like, get out there and skate.
Exactly, yeah.
Get out there.
Our physician, Bane, will look at you now.
That's right. He's going to throw you up and smash you.
Want to play the 4-nation space-off.
It's time to shoot you up with chemicals that will set you back 100 years. Yes. So the other thing, though, that you have to consider with McQueen and the Bruins, and it ties into Sweeney's future, is he signs that extension. He has like 3 years left. Could it be the final 3 years? Is this sort of that final Hail Mary? Like where it's like, we need to hit on a number 1 center as soon as humanly possible. And I remember Chris Peters coming on this show and saying, out of all the centers in the top 10, he's the one. McQueen's the one guy that is probably, if he hits, is a legit franchise cornerstone. One of 32 franchise centermen. And yeah, like that's the kind of guy he is if he hits. And do the Bruins say, you know what, we're going to swing for the fences on this? Now, again, it's such a boom or bust because if that hits, then you're set. Roger McQueen is playing with Pastrnak in 4 years, and he's putting up gaudy numbers. Whereas if he misses, and it's like, holy crap, this kid's back, he can't even stand up. Like his back is brutal. He can't play, or he's not good. And suddenly we're sitting here years from now, or 3 years from now, going, well, who should be the next Bruins GM? Who should be the next AGM? Like that cleans out a staff. So like, do they want to take that risk? Maybe they do. Maybe it's Sweeney saying, we're just going to go for it. We're going to go for it here. And if it doesn't work out, screw it. Like, I've been here a long time anyway. So that's...
I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Exactly. I'm here for a good YOLO, as the kids would say back when you were a kid.
Can you imagine if Sweeney goes up to the podium after they draft and just goes YOLO, and then
YOLO.
Roger McQueen?
YOLO, Roger McQueen. The scouting staff is like, fuck.
YOLO would be like them, like taking like Carter Bear. That would be YOLO
Yeah.
at number 7. Like,
Yeah, that's what they did. That's what they said when they took Zach Senyshyn at
right.
15. Which, by the way, not to like beat the dead horse here, one activity I did early last week before going on vacation was I went back and looked at 2015 mock drafts, like where people had people going, and like in one, Brandon Carlo was like a late first. Jake DeBrusk was universally kind of a late first as well,
20s, right?
like
Yeah.
20s, early 20s. Zabora was like 16 to 19.
He was the considered the safest pick out of that whole group.
Yes. Yes. Senyshyn was like a second, sometimes a third round pick in a lot of these mock drafts. So like looking back and looking at, and there was one, I forget which mock draft it was. It doesn't matter now, but there was one that actually missed like because it was pre-trade. So I think the Bruins just had the 13th pick.
Yeah.
And I forget who they had them taking, but it was a miss. And I just found it funny. Like they still found a way in the mock draft to miss. But it'll be interesting to see years from now, looking back on what we're saying now, looking back at these mock drafts and being like, how did we miss on this guy? How did they not take this guy? But if Haggs is there, man, like don't overthink it. Don't overthink it at all. I know you and I will talk more about who they might pick on Poke the Bear later this week. And by the way, if you want to go and watch Poke the Bear, watch Bruins Beat, watch Pucks with Haggs, I can tell you this. I forget. I don't know what Haggs' take is on the draft, or his latest take at least, and who he wants. I imagine he probably wouldn't want Haggs. I don't know. Like, I don't want to speak for Haggs. So you'll hear a different perspective, which is always fun. Make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and also make sure to go subscribe to all of CLNS's awesome content over at Celtics All Access, the CLNS Media Network's main YouTube channel, and Patriots Press Pass. Lots of great stuff throughout those off seasons. Different personalities if you like the Patriots and the Celtics. So make sure to go do all of that. Little news on Monday. Bruins re-signed pending RFA Mason Lohrei, 2 years, $3.2 million AAV. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with this deal. It's kind of what we expected. Short term, prove it. Is he going to be is his next deal going to be a good long-term one? Are you going to have to cut bait? And also, like, 3.2 million is not an insane number. It's edible in a trade. Like, if you wanted to package him for a much better player in a year or so, it's possible with that money. So I don't have any issue with this deal. Do you?
Yeah, not surprising in terms of being a bridge deal. See if he can recoup his value and set himself up for a nicer payday down the road. I feel like a lot of, especially RFAs, maybe are opting more for bridge deals anyway when you look at how much the cap's going to jump up. Not just this year, but I think I saw a new report a few days ago. I think it may have been like Chris Johnston, where he said like the cap might jump up even more, where we're looking at 118 to 121 million in another 2 years. Like, guys are going to get paid. I think you're even seeing that now. That
you're seeing the Mitch Marner stuff with the
you're seeing that. Like whether that's going to happen, where some of these free agents just sign 2-3 years and then cash in again. I'm sure these guys that now signed 8-year deals like 2-3 years ago are probably like, damn. But I do think when you look at Mason Lohrei, it makes a lot of sense when you're getting a bridge deal with a player like that. The 3.2, I thought it was going to be probably a little bit lower, like 2.5. But I also, you see how much the cap is jumping up. Not surprising. Lock him in. And then, it all comes down to what he does moving forward. I think you like the potential of Lohrei, but when you're looking at guys on this Bruins team that need to bounce back under Marco Sturm, Lohrei is going to play a key part of that. Like, unless like the Bruins are getting a Noah Dobson who's going to be running the power play, like getting Lohrei to play, better in his own end, get more confident offensively, which we can see his strengths there, but just having him be a more consistent player, he has the means to be a top 4 regular, really impactful, unique player. But is he that, or is he more of a third pairing sheltered type of player? Like I think you'd like for him to be more of that top 4 option, but finding out what exactly Lohrei is, what his ceiling is, I think moving forward is going to be key for Sturm to seeing what you can get out of this group. We know they're going to add this offseason, but you also need to get more out of their returning cast, and Lohrei's, I think, at the top of the list there.
Yeah, I mean, if Mason Lohrei can get to a point where he is, a 45 to 55, maybe even a little bit more points a season guy, and like a +5 to -9 type defenseman.
Not minus
Like
42 or
not the green jacket type thing. Like
yeah.
if he can get to that point, like I don't know, maybe in a couple years you're looking at a 5-year deal at 7 million per, or like he's huge, a good reach. If he can become a guy that you can even kind of trust in his own end, and I'm not saying that he's going to become that. Like there's a world in which he isn't. There's a world in which he is more of like a Tony DeAngelo type defenseman, where it's just offensive, can't really trust him in the D zone, because that is kind of what he is right now. So if he can get to that point of 45 to 55 points a season, and not a horrible plus minus, you probably are looking at a long-term deal a couple years from now. And as you mentioned, like the cap jumped up, like I said, 5 times 7 million AAV, and people go 7 million for Lohrei. Are you out of your mind? Well, you just mentioned it, the cap's going up, salaries are going to go up, contracts are going to go up. Like I don't think that's going to be insane for a second pair, offensive left shot defenseman in a couple years. It might even be more, and he might be great over the next few years, and they sign him to a longer term deal, and the money's even more. So we'll see with Lohrei. Again, I don't have a huge issue with it. I haven't seen people pissed off at that either. I mean, it's 2 years, 3.2. That's very, very manageable contract. One last thing before we go. Brad Marchand has basically been drunk for like a week straight, which has been awesome. Like this Marchand celebration tour has been incredible. I can't say that about the whole Panthers thing. I'm fine with everything they've done. The only time where I was like, ugh, Sam Bennett reenacting Conor McGregor was, as I would say, peak cringe.
Yes.
Like the way he did it was just, I watched it. I was like, oh, dude, like no. Like you let Conor McGregor say that. It was iconic. Like, don't try to recreate that, brother. Like make your own, say your own thing. But Marchand's basically been hammered for like a week straight. Have you seen the videos of him with
I think I've seen every video. The reaction tweet where it's all that row of old people at the casino just hitting the slot button. That's me liking every Marchand hammered video over. There's nothing better than that. It's one of the joys of people always talk about when the team wins the Stanley Cup, hoisting the cup and all that. That's great. It's one of the best moments in sports. Underrated part of the whole thing is just the week-long celebration afterwards. You don't see it in as much sports now, where it's like you will literally just run the town for a week. It's the best. It's like that's why I can't wait for maybe it'll be in like 2055 when the Bruins win a cup. Hopefully, it's a lot sooner than that. But like being able to cover a team and then get to cover the celebration afterwards. Not saying I'm popping bottles in the club, but you get able to cover like where these guys are at all times. Like someone randomly shows up at like Eastie one day, and then people are ripping drinks at the North End the next day with the cup, or they're in South. It seems like it's a blast to actually cover that and to see it follow from afar, even with a team like Florida. It's fun, and Marchand is living it up, as you said. I think has been drunk for a week.
Oh, completely, like a week straight. Yes. Hey, the only way out is go back in, and I think that's what he's been doing. But the funny. Like even the video of Barkov going to his neighbor's house the night of the cup at like 5 a.m. and you hear the wife on the ring camera be like, he'll be down. He'll be down. Like he's coming. Don't worry. He's coming down. But one little interesting thing, and again, I don't know how much stock you can put in what Marchand's saying right now, because that might be overstating it. But he was talking at Dairy Queen about the new Brad Blizzard or whatever they're calling it down there. And he was talking about, I feel bad even like taking these comments seriously, so like forgive me. But he said, quote, "We all have our own story about maybe not being the happiest in the situation at the time." And the context was he was talking about the
lack of
how everybody ended up in Florida.
He's like, I have to drive all the way to Quincy or Brockton to get Dairy Queen. It sucks.
I got to go to Ashland for Dairy Queen. This is BS. And he was even posting on his story, thank you Blackhawks for Seth Jones and thank you Flames for Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk or whatever. But that comment, I do wonder, like, how bad did things get here? Like, it didn't seem horrible at the time. Obviously, the team wasn't very good. When he got dealt, we heard obviously that they were kind of far apart on contract negotiations, but like, was it bad? Like, how bad was this? And I don't mean, I'm not doubting what he's saying. I'm saying, like, how bad was this year? Like, was he, I don't want to say fit to be captain, but like, were things running smoothly? What was his relationship like with the coaching staff, front office? Like, I just, there was maybe he's just talking about his teammates there, but I do wonder, like, how were things at the end here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only natural for a player like that to look back in this past year in disappointment, going from where you were in 23, 24, where you were one of the bigger, I think, surprises in the league. Have this Moneyball type of team that, wins around, plays Florida pretty tough in the second round, comes up short, but it felt like you were, poised to take a step forward. You add in free agency. And I think for Marchand probably going into the year, it's like, all right, where, are we legitimate contender? I don't know about that, but every player feels like they've got a shot, and you feel like you improved going into this past year, and then it just completely unravels. Like, training camp sucks, guys are hurt, the coach is already looking at. He had photos of the Gateway Arch on his laptop before like camp even started. I mean, everything could have gone wrong, went wrong, so it unravels there. You go from being like, all right, like maybe we got another run in us, or we're still going to be in a good spot. I'm going to close out my career here, and we have a few more playoff runs in store for us, to now, holy shit, like what the hell's going on? Like, am I going to get traded now? To then, not being able to come to terms on a contract. Like, I don't know if it's like resentment. I don't know if it's, there was like some behind the scenes stuff going on. Like, I'm not reading too much into that. Nor do I think resentment is the apt word there, but I think it's probably just more disappointment of how things, played themselves out here in Boston. And now you're in a spot where you're ripping shots and having Dairy Queen and living up in Florida, and it's good weather. I feel like it's probably just for him. I don't know if it's also maybe some of the Bears talking, but you're just grateful for where you are in this spot compared to where you were just a few months ago. Doesn't mean that people were throwing chairs in the locker room or something in February, but to go from a team that feels like they, everything imploded and felt rudderless, to a team that is focused on winning and has a great team, and you win a cup and you're in Florida and you're hammered regularly. I think you are going to be like, yeah, like, compared to where I was, that sucked back then. Like, I think you're naturally going to say something like that, right?
No, completely. And that's why, and it also, like, I can't say it enough. He has been hammered, and rightfully so. Like, I'm not, like, he's just been hammered, which, again, it is, did you say it to me? Someone said this, and I completely agree. The biggest tragedy of the Bruins not winning in 2019 was, like, you didn't get Marchand just torturing this city.
Yeah, I tweeted that out.
You didn't get
a photo of him with a little Edmonton Oilers logo on his shirt.
Yes, like, you didn't get it. And I see, like, I think fans around here are happy for him, but it's also, like, such a regret of not dealing him was the right thing. I don't think anybody disputes that, but, like, that he couldn't win a second cup here.
What could have been?
And what that would have, what could have been. And with that, that's the show. What a tough way to end on. And the Bruins get to care about the draft this year. What a fun year.
Yes.
Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over at theglobeandboston.com. We have covered every step of the way this Bruins offseason, whether it's the draft, free agency, which is right around the corner, dev camp, also incoming, trades, offer sheets, all that good stuff going into, obviously, the 2025-26 season. So you can read all my stuff over there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it these days, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. And make sure to go support our friends over at Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS. Make sure to subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. Maybe even leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Really
only nice things.
Only nice things. I can't read criticism. Anyway, that is Bruins Beat. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. You Bruins Beat listeners. Great rest of your week.